Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks, Bucks, and Bytes podcast, your weekly dive into funding, market, and investor news in architecture, engineering, construction, and supply chain. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
All right, guys. Seems like we're back to our usual Friday morning slot, which is a nice change from things as we have moved things up. And JP, welcome back. The second week in a row with us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. It's you're taking that one straight out of the VC playbook, right? Where your podcast appearances are more important than the fun performance. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I've got to start managing my own brand.
Cool. All right, so we are going to speak about a company that JP you invested in called Twin Knowledge today. I think this is a very timely subject as we are inundated with the, should I say, hype or news, or you just can't avoid the AI stuff that's coming out these days. So, who wants to kick off? I guess Martin, you probably could ask a couple of questions. Oh, and hey Patrick, by the way.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. Lovely show.
Hi, everyone. So I think Twin Knowledge is a platform that allows folks search for information based on their project documents, drawings, files, etc. Does this represent the right way of explaining Twin Knowledge?
Yeah, that's right. The thesis behind Twin Knowledge's product is fairly simple, is that there's a lot of information that exists in a whole bunch of different data silos. And so Twin Knowledge builds AI assistants to help you query that unstructured data. Where they're starting is a topic that we're pretty excited about. It's actually helping real estate and construction stakeholders QA and QC building drawings. And what we learned as part of the due diligence in this company was before a building gets built, there are thousands and thousands of pages of building drawings that constantly need to be QA'd and QC'd before you actually take that set of building drawings into the field. And I still think about one of the most unique insights we learned from a group in this space. They basically said, we have two people responsible for QA, QC of building drawings. Those two people are handed 10,000 pages and they just don't have the bandwidth to go in and sift through each page to ensure that the information is accurate. So in fact, what they do is they take a subset of 10% of those pages, they check to make sure those pages are correct. And then if they are correct, they make a wild extrapolation that the other 90% must also be accurate because the sample that they chose from looked good. And I think the four of us know that's usually not the case. It's not what happens in reality. So what Twin Knowledge is able to do is they use AI and computer vision to make sure building drawings remain accurate and consistent through various iterations, and especially as those building drawings are passed between various stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. If I may ask at this point, what's the accuracy? So obviously the building projects have different types of information input. So some of them can be very well detailed. There's 3D models, architectural, structural, mechanical. So you can put all these pieces together and perhaps figure things out. But there's lots of projects that would have only 2D information or very limited 3D information. So how useful is Twin Knowledge at that point where the information is not perfect?
Yeah,
or does it require full 3D design done on the project?
No, it only requires actually a 2D input. So the accuracy of the AI was something that we spent a lot of time on because we felt that we did not necessarily have the in-house technical understanding of how does this accuracy contribute to producing a very high quality AI agent or AI assistant. We worked with a few different technical consulting firms to really unpack the accuracy and the quality of the AI. And The accuracy is in the high 90%. You know, I think there's always room for this technology to continue to improve and get to hopefully to perfect 100% accuracy. But at this point in time, it's quite a robust algorithm, and we're very confident that it's able to deliver on some pretty complex products and projects.
I'm very curious, as I said, like earlier, what you put in is probably what you get out from as an outcome. So would that spot if an architect, an engineer, and M&E person is doing a mistake on their 2D drawings, would that spot there is a mistake as people don't see it, or is it something that is not yet possible from like technical aspect? It's actually a question to all of you. What do you guys think?
The technology can do that today. And maybe if I just take a quick step back here and contextualize it in the context of the market. So Patrick and I, I'm sure we hear about this concept of rework in construction on a daily basis. If you can believe it, there was about $65 billion worth of rework that happened in the United States last year. And the expectation in the market is that construction projects run over budgets and over the timeline that they're expected to be completed in. That seems to be an expectation that construction companies and stakeholders in construction have sort of accepted as reality. But when we hear a number as large as 65 billion, not only is that a huge opportunity to go after, but it's also, it's indicative of there's something institutional and kind of structural going on in this industry where technology might make a difference. And so our thesis behind underwriting Twin Knowledge is very simple. It's, Martin, exactly to your point, if you put bad data in, bad data is going to come out. What does that look like in practice? If you have inaccurate building drawings and you hand those drawings over to a general contractor, and that general contractor circulates those with their specialty trades, and the drawings are incorrect, they're going to build against whatever you give them. It doesn't matter if there's a pipe running through a conference room or a toilet enclosed in a four-wall space. They are given what you give them, and they build against it. Our thesis is let's cut the head of the snake off farther upstream, and start working with Twin Knowledge with the owner and developer groups so that they have better visibility into the quality of their building drawings before it's actually handed to their stakeholders and their counterparts in the field to build against. So where Twin Knowledge really excels is in that owner, developer, and architect segment, so that you're catching a lot of these mistakes early before the build is actually in the field and beginning to be worked against.
JP, are they looking at the drawings from a buildability QA perspective, like to say, oh no, that won't work, or that won't meet regulation, or you can't build a boat with a big hole in the middle of it because it will sink? Or is it more from the perspective of clashes between design or the potential that could cause rework, like a pipe going directly through the center of a room or something like that?
It's a bit of both, actually. So they augment their data with external data sources at the same time. A good example of this is we have an investor that participated in this round alongside us, a good friend of both Patrick's and mine, and they saw a thesis for scaling this company within municipalities around the US and globally, where if you can augment the data that Twin Knowledge ingests from its customer set with things like building code and specifications and in terms of how you build in New York versus Sacramento versus Berlin versus what have you, you're really creating an end-to-end solution that allows you to be informed of the quality and the accuracy of your builds, regardless of where they're going on. So to your point, Owen, yes, the data they ingest from their customers is constantly augmented by external data sources, including things like building code.
Interesting.
Can they do quantity takeoffs as well?
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Today, it's not a part of the feature set. I could see that being an additional piece of the technology at a later date, but right now they don't handle quantity takeoffs. I think the quantity takeoff vertical within this market, I think, is something that we view as a bit of a commodity. I don't know if Patrick would agree with that. We're seeing a lot of carbon copies of each other within the quantity takeoff sector, but in our mind, Twin Knowledge is really getting to a much larger issue, and that's helping to anticipate and prevent rework before it ever hits the field.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a more, let's say, step back conceptual question, JP. And to you guys as well, because you are also the practitioners. You will know how this works in the field much better than I do. So you described the process as sample testing today without a software like Twin Knowledge. And the problem with, so my wife used to work in Citigroup, in a large global bank, originally in sales. That's where she started, and eventually graduated towards the internal anti-fraud department. That's what she did for many years. So basically trying to build systems to detect potentially fraudulent behavior, and banks operate on sample testing all the time. That's why I mentioned this example. Now, the thing with sample testing is, I'm not a statistician, but it works effectively when your outcomes follow some kind of distribution. Doesn't have to be a bell curve, but some kind of distribution. And the outcomes, the magnitude of the outcomes also follows some kind of predictable distribution, right? So sample testing on a power law, for example, doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you're extremely likely to miss the highest value outcomes, right? I'm not saying this is power law, but my point is the following. When the general contractor industry or anyone trying to test for problems in their drawings, documents, etc., on a sample testing basis, the implicit assumption that you're making is that of a bank. You're saying, hey, I can rely on the underlying distribution, and I can rely that the magnitude of the wave that I'm examining is also predictable. The problem with construction is, and that's my question to you guys, construction, when you get one thing wrong, it has a rat's tail of second, third, and fourth order consequences. And that makes it, in my mind, again, I'm not the practitioner, much less likely to predict the magnitude of one error. Is that so? Two questions actually. One, am I thinking about this the right way? Is that how the practice actually works, or is it more predictable distribution? And two, if I'm right about this, what's then the thing that Twin Knowledge truly creates value for? How do I have to think of Twin Knowledge in that context?
Well, yes, I would say I can't answer the second question, but definitely the first one. Every error typically will have a knock-on effect. So if something is not detected, say, early on, then it might impact, I don't know, say the electricians, but then might also have an impact on the plumbing and so on and so forth. And that usually, like JP said, it results in costly rework. But to your second point, Patrick, I wouldn't know. That would be one for JP.
What was the second question, sorry?
Then how do we evaluate the value of a solution like Twin Knowledge when, the first question basically, hey, is this going to be a predictable, is sample testing effective in construction, essentially? And if it's not effective in construction, what's the value of Twin Knowledge then?
I can speak somewhat anecdotally to that, and I'll just point to a few insights we gleaned from our due diligence. So we very candidly during diligence, we tried to figure out where the highest value for this technology actually sat. And so we made a subset of introductions for Twin Knowledge to a couple developers, a couple AEC design firms, a couple general contractors. And the intention there was to figure out where was the greatest pain. The pain that was most, I think, most aggressively felt actually came from the developer segment. And they basically said they sit between the owner and the architect and are kind of constantly perceived as the bad guy. They have to go back to the owner and ask for more budget because they're over budget and over timeline. They have to go down and talk to the architect about why these building drawings are incorrect and why they're catching errors in this material. And so there's really no piece of the value chain where they win. They're constantly being berated from both sides of that value chain. So the COO of one particular developer told us, if you can help me stop being the bad guy with my partners, that would obviously save me a lot of headache. But more importantly, if you were able to save me even 100 bips or 200 bips in costs by the time we actually start building against this project, that's already meaningful for me. I'm happy to share a percentage of that cost savings with Twin Knowledge directly. And so when you start thinking about, again, the market size of rework that occurred in the US and globally, that number gets very, very big, very, very quickly. But again, that's just a singular data point. In our minds, the value of Twin Knowledge, yes, today is QA and QC of building drawings, but their AI architecture is incredibly flexible. They're able to tap into a number of different data sources. I think the thing that was very exciting about this technology was that the possibility seems fairly large. The possibilities seem very large, but we wanted to help the company on day one figure out where's the greatest pain felt. And we feel like that pain is most apt in with the developer and kind of the architect segment.
And JP, what it allows you to do is basically eliminate sample testing, right? So you're basically saying, hey, I'm testing 100%. And that's why I actually eliminate the problem that, Owen, you were confirming exists.
And I don't know, we just had the Toll Brothers case study up on the screen here. It's fairly light or fairly short, but one of the insights from the Toll Brothers case study was that they're able to do 4 or 5x the work with half the team. So there's some pretty significant efficiencies that are occurring, at least with these early data points. Again, the company is young. The company is, just raised their first round of institutional capital, but the logos are notable. The ROI seems apparent, and we've got the network to help them continue to deliver.
JP, you actually preempted a question I was going to ask, which was why start with drawings? But perhaps that was like do we still refer to this as a wedge or beachhead kind of solution for now? Because I'm assuming that the technology, whilst they're not the commercial aspect of it is focused on the drawings, I guess the technology is capable of tackling other areas within construction. But based on the due diligence that you've done, finding the pain points for the developer seemed like the perfect initial market to go after.
That's right. Yeah, but I would say wedge is probably the right term. Again, it kind of comes back to where is the greatest amount of pain felt. And Martin, you already kind of alluded to this. With a 2D drawing, it's incredibly hard to query the information that comes out of that drawing. You can query information from a CSV or an Excel file or what have you, like a little bit more easily. But with drawings, it's not as easy as saying, hey, let me use a Control F and search for, I don't know, MEP or HVAC or what have you. So they are solving, in our mind, a very hard problem first. The technology is delivering on it quite effectively at this point, but in our mind, that is the right wedge. Let's go after where the greatest pain exists and deliver on it exceptionally well.
So is this, so in the end of the day, this should be a search engine kind of, which you put in all your data and you have particular query and it gives you the answers or whatever you want.
I don't think so, Martin.
No?
I don't think that's what JP is describing. It's
It's
more
less of a search
preemptive,
engine.
right? It's more preemptive. So your drawings will be in there and then it will say, oh, here are all your error or issues or clashes or threats, risks, whatever you want to call it.
That's right. The way they would refer to their product is as an assistant. You're almost creating an additional, like a digital FTE, another full-time employee alongside you to help you query this information.
Oh, so that's even...
However, yeah, Martin, in your defense, there is a picture on the website where it may suggest...
So my question would be even more direct, probably. Is it not very temporary situation in the light of AI and how things are moving quickly?
I guess one could argue that. Look, I think things are moving so quickly with AI that it's possible that this solution is obsolete in 12 months. I think one topic we haven't really hit on just yet is who's at the helm of this company. And Patrick, I'd actually like your input on this as well.
Nice.
Sorry, I was preparing a different segment now. Actually, I want to first bounce it back, and then you'll hear my opinion. But okay, JP, how long are you living in Europe now?
3 years.
3 years.
Okay, it's remarkable how well you combine the two continents. The American vision, business savvy, and the European engineer's mindset and being fact-based. You're very toned down about this company, but come on, man, you love this company. You invested in it, etc. So the next segment is going to be called Cheerlead for Your Company. Okay, so remove all constraints, man. Tell us what you loved about Ivan.
Yeah. I have to say that's some feedback I get regularly. I'm not very good at cheerleading for myself.
No, it's great. I love it. It's like, I think this is the best way for the listeners to actually get into the substance. It's amazing. But the next segment, you're allowed to cheerlead.
Okay. Well, so the gentleman at the helm, he is a he is an absolute product wizard. He's a gentleman named Ivan Pandyshev, who actually founded a company back in, I believe it was 2007, called Horizontal Systems. If you followed the history of AEC for the last 30 years, Horizontal Systems was actually acquired by Autodesk in 2011 and became the backbone of one of their best-selling products, BIM 360. So Horizontal Systems is actually now BIM 360 Blue. After that acquisition, what we were very excited about was Ivan didn't feel like that scratched the itch sufficiently enough. And so he then spent the next 20 years in AEC building and operating and thinking about what kind of the next 2 or 3 companies would be that he would want to lead. He ended up leading a company called Infer, an AI and ML startup that was actually just recently bought a couple of years ago. He ended up becoming number 2 hire at Amazon Web Services to lead their AEC group. And all through the way, he seemed to just come with an absolutely sterling and stellar reputation. Everyone we've spoken to him about him has said Ivan is just a top-notch executive. He knows this industry extremely deeply. He's highly networked, and he seems to leave a really positive impression on the folks that he interacts with. And I remember as part of diligence, actually, we were getting down to the final days of making a decision on this investment, and I texted Patrick. And I said, my biggest concern here, Martin, to your point, is can someone that is not in industry replicate something like Twin Knowledge? If all of a sudden Palantir wanted to come in and say, hey, we're going to build Twin Knowledge for the AEC vertical, is that an existential threat for this company? And Patrick very quickly quelled my concerns there and said, look, if Ivan has the industry expertise in the network that you say he does, that understanding of nuance in AEC is going to go a very long way in helping him succeed in our vertical, because there are certain, again, nuances and specificities to AEC where having that background is going to provide a competitive advantage in the boardroom in selling this product. And I think that I have to thank Patrick for that insight, because that was one of the kind of final pieces of data we needed to collect to get to the point to say, yes, let's put in a term sheet to support this company. Ivan, I can't speak highly enough about Ivan. We believe he's the right person to lead this company, and we're excited to kind of build the network around him and the C-suite around him.
I want to build on that because, okay, recently, as in the last 24 months maybe, we here at Fundamental have been getting more and more excited when products get wrapped in white glove distribution motions. You mentioned Palantir. It's certainly a darling of that motion or pioneer of that motion when it violated all kinds of narratives. The narratives was, it has to be SaaS, it has to be recurring. Make it as low touch as possible. If it's not low touch, it won't scale. Big narrative violation from Palantir when they actually, and also at the time, oh, you can't do business with governments. It's so hard, such a difficult motion, etc. Well, but why was it difficult? It was difficult because governments they have very, very low risk tolerance. They have very high risk exposure. And so you needed to translate being a technology company, being a new player on the block, into track record, into effective relationship building. What is an effective way of doing that? White gloving your service and not immediately asking for a 3-year recurring commitment, but actually demonstrating the outcome before you make people commit to a long-term contract with you. And so that obviously snowballed into it's not secret, but into a defensible moat that Palantir has built. And I'm seeing, JP, to your point, similar motions in AEC, and especially the C part of AEC and the developer part of AEC being effective, where customers in our project-based industries have very similar issues. It's idiosyncratic to many other sectors that way. And that's when wrapping a good product into a white glove motion led by people with what we call in German barn smell. That's a positive thing. So don't associate it with something negative. It means you are credible. You speak the language. You can speak from experiences that the customer will share and relate to. That's the barn smell. And so Ivan clearly has that. So when you combine those things and you give customers a slightly tailored and white gloved experience to implement your software, I'm very enamored with these kinds of distribution motions. Is that what Twin Knowledge is doing? White gloving it a little bit or low touching it?
It's definitely more white glove than low touch at this point. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, again, going back to my earlier point, finding the pain where it exists. I think Ivan is I describe him as a Swiss Army knife. We
Can
actually
I just ask silly questions for those who don't know and me? What is white glowing and low touching in this context?
I was going to ask the same.
Sorry, that's the silly jargon. Okay, so white glove basically means that I'm not trying to give you a product and expect you to be able to use it out of the package. I'm not giving you a plug and play type experience where I'm trying to minimize my effort to help you implement it, help you learn how to use it, help you perhaps integrate it with other data sources that might be required to be effective. A white glove approach means other people would call it consulting, but I think that's wrong because consulting is not about outcomes. Consulting is about giving people an insight into something. A white glove approach in the context of software means, hey, I'm not leaving you alone with it. I help you get started. I help you pull the data that you need within all the other systems. A great white glove company would be Infosys or TCS or Accenture. SAP has lots of white glove consultants around itself. Salesforce. Did you guys know Salesforce is 280 billion market cap and has another 150 billion market size just for Salesforce consultants who help with implementation? That's white glove, Martin, right? Whereas low touch would be,
I would say,
here you go, don't bother me.
Mm-hmm. So I think actually it's a very interesting point because my feeling only is that in construction, this white glowing exists because things are not that straightforward. You can't just get the outcome straight away. And usually, I think this is actually feedback from innovation managers we speak with. Technologies that are pitched to them very often don't do what they are promised to do just because it's so complicated and not everyone desires the same outcome from technology. Every large contractor is different to a degree. So I think, thanks for that insight. It's an interesting concept, actually, this white glowing.
There's an additional... Oh, JP, go for
no,
it.
all you.
So there's an additional thought from the perspective of an investor and also the founder. When you play white glove the right way, you can actually make your CAC negative. So CAC is the customer acquisition cost. It's a very important... It's not a metric, it's a concept to monitor as a founder and then by extension as an investor, because it does define how quickly and capital efficiently you can scale a company. It tells you other things too. A negative CAC means that basically the customer finances your distribution. You're making the customer give you cash in order to sell to him. That's what white glove is more effective to do than a traditional SaaS motion. You can see it in SaaS motions too, especially, for example, you are able to close 3-year contracts, relatively high ACVs, front-loaded on cash. That also can work, but white glove is another very proven way to do that. It's not talked about enough, and founders that are infected by more the last 20 years of how to build SaaS rather than the first principles that construction offers to them, they might forget this, but it's something that I absolutely love when I see white glove approaches. Now, it's not the end-all be-all, it's not the solution to everything, so I'm not saying, hey, without thinking critically do white glove. Not my point. My point is think about the first principles. And in Twin Knowledge's case, JP, back to that company of yours, I think the white glove motion makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. What I was going to say earlier is I describe him as a Swiss Army knife. And the reason I do that is he's so effective at diagnosing where Twin Knowledge's tech makes sense for his customers. So much so that he's done something that I think is several steps ahead of where we see a lot of founders. Before this company really hits its stride, he's started to quantify what is the value of working with us before it's really in mass in the market, before the brand Twin Knowledge is widely known. And I remember we introduced him to a few groups, and we sat in the room with them as these introductions were occurring. In 15 minutes, he asks a few introduction questions. He kind of figures out, where, I don't know if it's a question of body language or how people are communicating certain things about a problem, but he's able to pinpoint exactly where Twin Knowledge should exist in a customer's architecture, and he runs very quickly towards it.
Nice. Smart spell.
Yeah, right. So we're very excited to work with him as a CEO and a founder. He's also has this incredible balance of pitching vision and kind of the quantifiable ROI of what Twin Knowledge can do for his customers. And I think that combination is going to prove to be quite deadly in the long run.
So I think, JP, maybe what I'm reading into this is that you're obviously cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of hype around AI at the minute, and perhaps almost anyone now could probably code some form of AI tool. However, in this case, it was very much down to the founder who has a good product with them that you're more bullish on, as opposed to the product itself in its current form.
I think there are merits to both, but we are particularly excited about Yvonne, yes. And again, Martin probably remembers this from the last time we spoke. Our strategy as a fund is we have 300 real estate and construction companies invested in our funds. Those groups can feasibly become customers of the technology companies that we support with capital. And in our mind, that is a very productive combination, because Yvonne can continue to exercise his brilliant product mind. He can continue to be that Swiss Army knife in the sales room, and we can fill his top of funnel. So it's a really nice combination when we at Camber Creek can kind of serve up on a silver platter. Here's another customer for you to consider. Yvonne can go in, slice and dice, diagnose, figure out where Twin Knowledge makes sense, and then execute in that regard. So yes, I'm not a very good cheerleader for myself sometimes, but I am pretty excited about this company.
You made me excited too now, so I think you've done a good job.
I wanted to touch on this. So $3.7 million. So share whatever you can. So they raised $3.7 million. And how did you how did you come up with the valuation? Yeah, maybe let's start from that.
I won't get too deep in the weeds on this one. The short answer is the amount that Yvonne raised is sufficient for the next 24 months.
Okay.
Nice.
And there's a couple reasons as to why we believe that's the case. But again, it goes back to, we're going to be active partners to him and the company in filling his funnel with prospective customers. There's a lot of bandwidth in our mind that gets taken, that is given back to Yvonne as a founder when we can kind of tee up the next introduction to a prospective customer, rather than have him kind of pounding the pavement and going to market and finding the next customer himself. Okay. Not to say that he can't do that. Again, he's incredibly well networked, and actually, as part of due diligence, during due diligence, he landed a couple big deals while he was fundraising at the same time. In our mind, when a founder can raise money and also do deals at the same time as due diligence is occurring, that's a really strong positive signal. And he did that in 2 separate occasions while we were getting smart on his company. So
that's a really cool signal. I hadn't thought about that. I like that. I might steal that from you. That's a pretty cool signal for the early years.
Mm-hmm. So where is the product right now, and where this money is going to go over the next 24 months?
We'll need to scale the team significantly. It's a bit of a strike force team right now, which is great, and it's worked for the first call it 18 months of the company's existence. But now it's about figuring out where, from a headcount perspective, we need to really staff up. And there will certainly be some additions to the engineering side of the house, the BD side of the house, the sales side of the house. We're taking a look at that actually as we speak. And at our upcoming board meeting, I think we should have a much firmer plan in terms of where we want to immediately hire.
Mm-hmm.
JP, not a trick question, because I can't remember what my colleague, when they looked at Twin Knowledge, if they were looking into that, or whether the deal was already too advanced, and just for clarity, also for everyone.
Are you jealous now?
JP has an ownership target, and his and my ownership target don't always work with each other. So, but that's fine. Sometimes we also follow each other. So maybe that's gonna be the case in Twin Knowledge. But that's also why we didn't progress to like the super advanced stage with Twin Knowledge, which is why I'm going to ask you the following question, because I don't know the answer. When you did your competitive land mapping, did you feel like Twin Knowledge had lots of peers, or did you feel like this was something where they are extremely alone?
It's a great question. So candidly, when we built our competitive landscape, I think it was something like 100 Excel lines long. But the competitive landscape wasn't just focused on the agency and real estate vertical. It was more a broad view of who among the VC-backed generalist portfolio companies might be able to take a right-hand turn and move into the AEC industries. So the map the map itself was pretty extensive, but as you kind of drill down on AEC and real estate, we felt that they were fairly unique. Not only in terms of the technology that they've built, in terms of being able to QA and QC building drawings being, again, where a lot of the pain exists, but also the customers that they were selling to. We felt that they had really figured out a pretty intelligent insight around the customer we want to go after. The one with the greatest propensity to pay for something like this is going to be farther upstream than it is going to be down with the contractor ecosystem. And in our mind, that was a very good insight to execute against. Look, I think, again, we are cognizant of the fact that AI is going to continue to proliferate very, very rapidly. But if I go back to my earlier point, we think we have the right person at the helm to really go and execute against this mandate effectively.
Mm-hmm. So you said that earlier that from the customer's point of view, they would love like 1-2% of savings, kind of to know upfront what they could save. So my question is, I don't know if it's a good answer to it or not, but how can we figure out that this is going to be 1 or 2% upfront, and how much are they saving really? Is it a good question to ask or not really?
Yeah, no, I think it's the right question to ask. We did a few back of the napkin calculations on both from the seat of the developer and also the seat of the architect and the engineer before we invested in this company. And maybe I'll just walk you through what that looked like. In the case of the developer we spoke to, the COO that mentioned he's getting berated from both sides of the value chain, they have a development in Nashville, Tennessee, pretty big mixed use development. I think it's a combination of multifamily apartments, retail, and some office. And what we did is, all right, we took a look at how much it costs to develop per square foot or per square meter in Nashville, a building of that ilk. And then we said, all right, if it's this anticipated to be this big, you're building at this much per square foot, and you're doing about a 10 to 15% cost overrun, you're missing your budget by 10 to 15%. What does that dollar value translate into? And what is the feasible revenue potential that could mean for Twin Knowledge if this COO says or delivers on the fact that he would be willing to share those cost savings with Twin Knowledge? And again, that number becomes very large very quickly. Can they save, 1 to 2% on the bottom line? Maybe. We'll see. I think the company is too young to really, say definitively that they can save 100, 200 bips for their users. But the use cases that they've published here on their website, I think, are pretty strongly indicative of the fact that there is value to be had. Determining the scale of that value is going to be something we'll work on with the audit team regularly.
Actually, I want to piggyback off of that, Martin, and all of you. So, JP, you've cited the 65 billion rework problem. I think you were referring to the US market, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, sounds massive, right? And so the sources of rework can be varied, right? So it can be whatever, change orders that all of a sudden a customer thinks they need something else. Okay, I mean, that's then in the control of the customer if they really want to change. It can be badly planned. It can be badly executed. Maybe it can also be that your subcontractor has priced in a way that they actually speculate to get to or to create certain change orders because they actually make the margin with the change orders, and so on and so forth. But I want to focus on this practice of making money with change orders, and that's sort of part of the 65 billion of rework, I'm assuming now. Not about Twin Knowledge necessarily, but solutions like Twin Knowledge. What do you guys? What's your intuition? This practice of making money with change orders. What will solutions like Twin Knowledge do to that practice? Could it create sort of a completely new business dynamic? It's a very abstract question, but perhaps you guys know what I'm referring to.
I like the question a lot, actually.
It's like a marketplace that you could, based on the differences, no? So I actually think...
No, because what Patrick is asking is, because you are eliminating issues within drawings, does that reduce the opportunity for subcontractors to come back to you and say, I need more money because this wasn't in a design document at a later date?
And then might they offer differently in the first place? Might they price their own quotes differently in the first place? It's kind of an interesting second order dynamic to think.
But everyone here, I think we are so ingrained in the construction, how it works. But let's go back. Like if we buy something outside of construction, we are usually buying the product which works, and we know how much we're paying. We usually know what the value of it, right? It is, right? We kind of think that, oh, there's this change order, or we'll get another 5-10% of this contract. Why this solution should not be implemented as a default in, and this is, I'm speaking about my ideal world as a designer. Why this solution should not be implemented in a software package that someone is designing on, and figure it out once they are designing it, not once it goes to pricing, because that's like, why would you even
I think that's
sell?
Idealistic, and they're probably some
It
time
is,
scale
but
away
that's
from
how
there.
it should be from the designer.
It will. I'm sure it will one day, but we're tackling the issues in front of us.
Yeah, but why would you tackle a problem which is maybe not the problem? Because the problem is the designer is giving you crap, and you have to work with the crap. That's why you need software like that.
That's a problem then.
Yeah.
But maybe the incentive for the subcontractor is to win the job and make the margin after they won the job. I mean, there's sort of a different dynamic here at play, Martin, isn't it?
But that's not how it should be, right?
Yeah, but it is mine.
But it doesn't mean that it's correct, and it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. This is inefficiency, right? But and technology is there to tackle inefficiency.
And that's my question, Martin.
Yeah.
What is the trend of twin knowledge? Imagine twin knowledge was rolled out across every project in the United States, 65 billion of rework, but we know we have this dynamic. What's going to happen to that dynamic?
I think there are other issues as well, Patrick, perhaps as to why subcontractors go after their main or general GCs, contractors, whatever you want to call it, which are not just related to drawings. Yes, this will eliminate part of that, but there are other reasons, like I don't know, someone didn't move their ladder in time, and so therefore I need to put in a 4-month extension to the contract or whatever.
Weather.
Yeah. Someone put a huge tariff on us, and now we can't do this effectively. So yes, it will eliminate, but no, sorry, it will reduce, but not eliminate.
What I was trying to say with my 5 pence earlier is that right now we are deferring the moment of the truth. If the design is handed over badly or is not fully compliant or put together, we are deferring the moment of the truth. The moment of the truth should be before the design is handed over, and then everyone is on the clear page. Everyone knows exactly that they are buying iPhone 16, and that's the product. That's how much we're paying for.
Yes,
right?
yes. But also, we should also live in a world where there's no wars and peace, and everyone is in utopia, and we're having such a great time.
That's only how construction works. I think that you kind of keep adding.
I think you'll be surprised, actually.
You are QS. That's why you are in the business of adding money to the projects.
No, yeah, whatever.
So you're talking your own book, Owen.
No.
Yes, you are.
I'm sure there's
Sorry, it's not a show about us. It's not a show about us.
I love it. I mean, I lit the fire here. That's great. But the metaphor. Okay, so I actually have a. So I was first thinking of the analogy of drugs coming into your country. Let's not use that. Let's use a metaphor. Okay,
it's all pointing at the American right now, isn't it?
No, we all have to.
That's why
we share that problem. But let's use the metaphor. Okay, so you have a bucket, and the bucket has holes, right? And so you're kind of thinking it sucks that, I calculated with this volume of the bucket to hold this volume of water, but it really doesn't because there's, this hole. And then you're plugging that hole and you realize, oh, actually now the water is seeking, there's another small tear in the bucket, and now the water is slowly seeking through that other tear, and it's creating a completely new hole. So until I give you a perfectly intact bucket, the water is going to find a way. So I wonder whether that metaphor is going to apply here, is that, hey, until I fix the incentives for the subcontractor not to win the bid with the lowest bid, they're going to find other reasons in order to create change orders. That's sorry, I'm not making that prediction. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying that's the question in my mind.
Yeah, I think I would make you right. I would think that people would start putting much more ladders on site so it gets in the way of their work, so they can use that as an excuse. Damn, we can't use the drawings anymore.
But the only way they can say things, obviously, we talking about twin knowledge is to check the technical details, drawings, right?
Currently.
So we're not talking about ladders. We're not talking about weather. Yeah. So at least let's get the design aspect done correctly.
No debate.
And there's no debate about it, right? The weather,
I'm not saying
earthquake-
this shouldn't be implemented. I'm not saying that at all. I'm only thinking about the second order consequence of this weird dynamic and practice that we have, where a source of rework also is that I underbid in order to make my margin with the change orders. That's my entire.
That's
incentives.
unethical. That's not good business practice, and people should go bust if they do this. Honestly, like that's brutal truth. Like I don't know what else is to say about that.
If this issue fixes in your lifetime, Martin, then I will be very surprised.
I don't know. I'm not there to fix it, but I think we need to put things as they are.
You know that Martin is actually an active subscriber to 3 different longevity sites and their vitamins. He plans to live very long, Owen.
Yeah, I got your advice to sleep 8 hours a day, so I'm trying to.
I'm
trying
I'll remember this episode, and when you are at the age of 149, I'll send it back to you and ask you if you've been there.
Okay.
Moving on. I think we're nearly at the end, actually, of our time. So,
Any closing thoughts on the space of twin knowledge, guys?
yeah, any thoughts about AI?
You want to back the founder you love. I think JP, you found him.
Yeah, I feel confident in that too. And it's I tried my hardest to work on this one with Patrick and the fundamental team. So maybe at the next round, we'll finally get that chance.
Patrick, do you have a company like that in your portfolio or not?
No, not directly. Not directly. So there are companies, and I will not mention them because this is about twin knowledge. I have companies in my portfolio that could become partners, that could become solutions that not embed but wrap it together between both companies, where they can distribute each other, etc., but not exactly what Ivan and Twin Knowledge are doing. Not currently in my portfolio, no.
Okay.
All right, guys. JP, if you want to join us for a third week in a row, then we'd love to have you.
Let's do it.
Happy to.